What's going on, world? Coming at you guys again. We got another quick video. Freedom, autonomy, and supporting nations. Let's talk about it. So, if you're an American citizen, and whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, Conservative, Greenpeace, whatever the situation is, and your perspective is to safeguard America as a whole for preservation of safety, security, and freedom here in the country, and you are anti oppression, you are anti paternalism, you are anti infringement of your rights to have some form of a sustainable as well as equitable and profitable life, then you're a patriot, right? But that comes in the question as to where does that communication and correlation lie? When you look at America, if you're an American citizen, you're fighting for all these founding principles and pathways in order to safeguard yourself and keep yourself safe and secure. Now, the biggest debate and debacle that's been coming around on a lot of different transitions of platforms as well as perspective is our ability to have a unified front with United Nations, right? Not necessarily United Nations per se, but foreign nations. And one of the biggest nations that's the biggest controversial topic right now is actually Israel. When you look at Israel, well, the reality of the situation is the people who occupy Israel are operating on the same premise and belief that you, as American citizens, are actually also operating on: safety, security, autonomy, freedom. These are the same things that American citizens are operating on. Now, as we look at this and we look at this in a different perspective, and we talk about specifically as to how these things are able to be managed for the future for children and grandchildren, I've said this before: America has to expand. You know, we're 39, well, actually, now we're $40 trillion in debt. America operates off the petrodollar. America operates from foreign investments. When people stop utilizing the petrodollar to trade and people stop lending money to America, America will go belly up. And when that happens, America is going to have to rely on individuals whom will support it. Otherwise, America will fold in on itself. And the people that we transition from capitalism will transition to communism. This is why when we look at the 13th Amendment, it talks about slavery. Slavery under the understanding that convicted of a crime, you can be put out to work. And when we talk about the Fair Debt Practice Act, the Fair Debt Practice Act was implemented post abolishment of slavery. Now, if that's repealed and the debt is called in, well, unfortunately, every American citizen that doesn't have at least $350,000 for every adult and $200,000 to $250,000 or $150,000 for every child, unfortunately, you're going to find yourself in a situation in accordance with the 13th Amendment and indentured servitude. So when you guys are talking about trying to move forward collectively for safety, security, preservation, and autonomy and freedom here in the country, we as Americans have to start looking at other individuals who find themselves in the same positions that we are in. And that happens to be Israel. Israel was in the Middle East. Israel is in the same situation as America is, trying to establish a stronghold for itself and its people. The same thing that you're trying to do as American citizens. So I think it's time that you stop looking at the actions of Israel in such an anti-American perspective, because you guys are very similar when it comes specifically as to what you're trying to accomplish. Now, again, I've said this before. In order for America to move forward and keep itself safe and secure, it has to expand. At the rate we're going right now, again, if foreign countries start refusing to invest in America, if foreign countries start calling in the debt, and if foreign countries stop using the dollar to trade when it comes for transactions of gas and oil, America is going to find itself in a position to where it's going to owe debts. And unless America has the technology as well as the human capacity to facilitate the roles of soldiers to defend itself from defaulting on debt, America is going to turn inward on itself, on its own people. So these really are your two options. We need to support places like Israel because Israel is a stronghold within the Middle East. And through our collective coordination with Israel, we have the capacity to transition as well as hold our identity as American citizens for our freedoms in which we embody and safeguard here in America, the same way they do in Israel. Now, when you look at the rest of the countries around the world, again, America is the melting pot. America is the most diverse country on the planet. When you look at Israel, Israel is trying to become more inclusive. So the reality of the situation is, when you're talking about trying to assimilate into a society or culture that practices the same philosophical ideologies and identities, we have to find other countries and other nations whom process and are willing to adapt and adopt similar strategies and philosophies that we have here in America, and Israel happens to be one of them. So when we go look at the rest of these nations around the world and we see that 95% of other foreign nations outside of Israel are primarily just that specific culture or that specific race, well, those countries are going to be our direct competitors. They're going to be the ones whom unfortunately are going to cause America to collapse on itself, onto its own citizens. So if you don't want that to happen, then it is highly suggestible that America supports Israel in its notion and its process to move forward and to expand out and to seek out those whom are oppressed. As it is stated in our motto, De oppresso liber. It's to free the oppressed. That's why we see so many different people from so many different nations come here to America from so many different races, so many ethnicities, and so many cultures, because they're looking for the opportunity here in America. So now that we have placed ourselves in a position here in America to where our economy is thriving, but it's thriving on an expert level, it's time to open up the opportunities to other nations outside of America to give them the opportunity to also play in the game in which we have created and mastered for equality for all individuals to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for all people.